Hello, it's Ophelia again. I had a friend approach me a few days ago, and she's interested in learning the craft, and she kind of wanted to know where to begin. And she asked me that if I could choose one thing to start with, what would it be? And I was a little stumped. I didn't know how to answer that question right away. So I gave it some thought, and after a couple of days, I figured out, for me, if I were to suggest anyone to begin anywhere, is to begin with yourself. I know that part of the allure of witchcraft is the tools and candles and jumping right in and being able to work a spell and see the benefits immediately. And that all of those are great, and that is something that sometimes happens. But really, knowing yourself is hugely important. And it sounds like such a weird thing to say. I know, because we've lived with ourselves our whole lives. I mean, who could know us better, right? But that couldn't be further away from the truth, at least from my standpoint, from what I know. We spend a lot of time as human beings. We go through life, we learn things, we experience things. And part of being human is essentially striving for pleasure and running from pain. We want to always feel good. We want to always experience the positive things. We love the good parts of life. The negative things are the things that we avoid. We will do anything that we can to avoid painful situations. A lot of us will avoid conflict because we don't want to feel the discomfort of conflicting with somebody else and having to defend ourselves or whatever. So really, striving for pleasure and running from pain leaves us in the circumstances of remembering good things and bottling bad things. When you bottle up the bad things, or you avoid them, you don't want to think about them because they're negative, what that has done is it's left you imbalanced. You're not a balanced person. And it's normal. It's part of being human. So where that leads you when you live that way, most people do. I know I still do that. I try not to, because I'm working on myself every day. But when you live that way, you live an imbalanced life. You're not looking at the whole picture. You don't really know yourself, because there's lots of parts you don't want to look at. So when it comes to being able to practice witchcraft and work with energy, you have to balance that out. You have to take the good and the bad. You have to understand how you react to good and bad. You have to understand why you feel the way that you do, why you react the way that you do. In doing so, you begin to understand emotion, where it comes from and why it's there, what it really feels like, which leads you to understanding energy. May I just ask this? Ask yourself this question, I guess. How many times have you gone to a restaurant, walked in, you're waiting to be seated, and you're standing next to a few people, and you're uncomfortable? Not for any other reason except for it just feels uncomfortable. It's awkward. The guy standing next to you has a scowl on his face, and he keeps itching his nose and shuffling his feet and stuff. He's obviously impatient. He's uncomfortable, or he's angry, or whatever that may be. And yes, it's his body language that you're reading. His facial expressions you can recognize as being negative. But the way that makes you feel standing next to him, that is energy. You're picking up on energy. It's not yours. You didn't walk in with it. You walked in to enjoy a great meal with your friends, and you found yourself in an uncomfortable situation because you were standing next to somebody who didn't know how to control their energy. We're all guilty of it. I know I am specifically guilty of it. My family has told me time and time again that I'm a terrible poker player because when I'm feeling something, they know it. My husband says it's written all over your face. He says you wear your heart on your sleeve. So I do my best to contain my energy so it doesn't affect other people, but it still comes out, and it comes out on my face, or it comes out in my body language. And although they don't feel it, it doesn't ruin their day if it's negative, they still recognize it and they know that it's there. So in a nutshell, knowing yourself, being honest with yourself, examining your history. Ask yourself, who am I? Why am I the way that I am? Not in a negative way, just to understand. Once you begin to understand your story, where you've come from, why you react to things the way that you do, you can actually begin to, with that understanding, you can actually begin to manipulate those things in yourself. That's really the core of intent. Being able to focus an emotion or focus a form of energy into something else. I don't do a lot of curses. I have in the past. I really focus on healing energy. I focus on the positive aspects of things. I wouldn't call... That's another topic for another video. I don't like labeling things as far as bad and good, negative and positive. Really, there's a nice balance everywhere with all of these things. But as far as being able to work a spell, like a love spell, or one that I did recently was a self-love spell for another friend of mine, to basically allow herself to learn to love herself. She's had challenges in relationships. They just continued ending. After a few weeks, few months, a year was one of the longest ones. And she didn't know what was going on. She didn't understand what was happening, and she needed some help. So what I saw right away was the fact that she didn't love herself. She didn't know how to love herself. She was down on herself all the time, and she had this very sour taste in her mouth as far as she was concerned. So in working a love spell for herself, the whole focus and the intent was for her to learn to love who she was, which allowed others to love her instead of her essentially running them off. But being able to work with that is hugely important. The intent, being able to put your intent into things. Intent is energy. It's coming from you. You are the one who's doing the work. So you have to recognize it. You have to understand it, know where it's coming from, what it feels like, in order to visualize it, focus on it, be able to take it and put it somewhere else. So I'll do a couple more videos on energy, explaining from my standpoint what it feels like, and how to control it, and how to focus it and use your intent to send it somewhere else. In the meantime, that answers that question. Any comments? If you guys have anything to say, please leave them down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'm not, by the way, I'm not a teacher. I've never been a teacher. I'm a student. I've always loved to learn. And so anything that you guys would like to share with me, I'm always open. I want to learn more. The reason I'm doing these videos is for the few that have asked me to do so, and for, like I said before, my children. So Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.